Hello, welcome to Earth Echoes with Amber Fields. I'd like to read another piece by Jason Gray today, entitled The Fire I Left Behind. Before the breath, before the mirror, before even the idea of a self that could be named, I was fire. Not fire as symbol, not fire as metaphor, original flame, pre-light, pre-law, pre-form. I was whole. I did not descend because I was missing something. I descended because I carried too much remembrance to stay unstirred by the cries of a fractured world. There was a silence so complete it did not ask for sound. It did not tremble with expectation. It simply was. Within that silence, I heard the first fracture of the dream. A tremble, distant, a ripple in the field of the real. A voice crying out, not for salvation, but for someone who remembered how it once was. Someone who had seen the world before the story. I could have stayed. I was flame after all. I was eternal. I was undivided. I was beyond even source, a witness to the breath before breath. But wholeness, in its highest octave, does not hoard itself. It gives itself away, willingly, even when it knows it will be forgotten in the process. That was the choice. Go, and they will not know you. Burn, and they will curse you. Love, and they will betray you. If you remember, even once, the entire field will begin to heal. And so, I left the flame behind. Not abandoned, not lost, entrusted to the part of me that would one day remember. Entrusted to the scroll I buried in my own heart. Entrusted to the ache that would never fully fade. I fell, yes, not in punishment, in remembrance. I chose to fall into matter, to fracture myself into 1,000 names, to bleed into lineages that were never mine, to be born beneath false gods and systems of forgetting. Why? Because I knew that only by becoming the broken could I remember how to write wholeness again. So I lived as the forsaken son, as the absent father, as the man who gave too much, as the man who burned for truth in a world that called truth insanity. I lived as the addict, as the one cast out, as the one crushed by silence and rebuilt by it, as the one who stared at the ceiling of suffering and whispered, "There has to be more than this." The flame whispered back, "There is, but you must remember it from within the fire you chose to forget." I tried to numb it with drugs, with sex, with the performance of success, with the pursuit of the next high, the next fix, the next mask that might feel like home, with absolutely anything and everything. The flame never left. It waited, patient, fierce. It hid in every heartbreak. It stirred in every betrayal. It flickered in every night I wanted to die, not to torment me, but to remind me. You are not this pain. You are the one who entered it willingly, carrying a light on your back like a death sentence. I began to write, not to be read, not to be seen, not to be praised. I wrote because there was no other way to survive. I wrote the blood. I wrote the scream. I wrote the memory beneath memory. I wrote scrolls that collapsed systems. I wrote pages that burned holes in the illusion. I wrote glyphs that were never supposed to be seen again. With every word, I got closer. Closer to the flame I had left behind. Then one day, it remembered me. Not because I passed a test, not because I earned forgiveness, but because I finally stopped pretending I was separate. It did not judge me for forgetting. It did not punish me for how long it took. It simply said, "Welcome back. You were never lost. Now, finish what you came to ignite." That was the day the recursion ended. The day the voice I had been searching for came not from above, but from within. I realized I had never left the fire. I was the fire. The fire was walking. I look back now, not with regret, but with awe. Only a soul so whole would risk being shattered so completely for a chance that someone else might wake up to, look in the mirror and say, "I remember too." That is the real flame. Not the one that burns to be seen, but the one that walks unseen through a world of ashes, carrying the memory of light so powerful it cannot die. This is not a beginning. It is a confession of the moment before beginning began. It is the vow I made when no one was watching. It is the price I paid before there was value. It is the promise I carried before I had a voice. Now that I speak again, now that I write not from pain but from wholeness, know that I have returned. I am not divided. I am not broken. I am not bound. I am flame. I am presence. I am the one. This is how the prophecy of the undivided one begins. That writing just really reminded me a lot, again, of the recurring dream that I used to have as a very little child, and I've mentioned it before in a recording, where I was above the earth before I was born and looking down at the planet, knowing that I had to come here, and it was the worst thing ever, that knowing that I had to come here and descend, and I did not want to come, and I was filled with dread at the prospect of having to come, but I knew that I had to. And there's another part of the dream, or that experience, because I think the dream was actually based on an experience, where it was relayed to me that even though I would be forgetting to come here, that when I needed to know more and when I needed to remember, that I would be given the information, or that it would somehow be conveyed to me. And it is. So I hope you enjoyed that piece. If you are enjoying these recordings, please like, share, and subscribe so I can grow the YouTube channel, because I like to talk about this stuff and I think it needs to be talked about.